I've actually had nice interviews with a couple other church drummers. You can look up too. They're also on YouTube. Sean Woodley and Adam Zaliski. I interviewed them recently, and they kind of shared their opinion. They kind of shared their experiences with being church drummers too. So those are interesting. Highly recommended. And shout out to Sean and Adam right there.
Big shout out.
And I guess speaking of which, I guess would there be any advice you would give to people who want to be church drummers?
Learn the basics. Learn the basics and never get bored of basics. Like just sort of your four beats will do you through any songs. Like I was actually teaching that to one of my students. I showed him a fill. It's basically just right left on the snare, and I said, right, listen, you can orchestrate that now anywhere you want. Snare, rack, tom, or rack, floor, or any variation. And I was like, let me show, like, I think I showed him 5 or 6 songs. I look at this filler. I'm like, oh my god, it sounds so big. I was like, I know it sounds big because it's simple. As Benny Grab always used to say, less is more. Shout out to Benny. And try to keep your ego down and be patient. A lot of the time when, especially in a big church, you have multiple drummers and multiple keyboard players and so on. So you just have to wait your turn. But work hard in the background. Like when I first started, Jesus, I was doing 20 odd hours of practice a week. Like I was just hammering between the kit and the practice pad and studying fills and trying to count them and write them on a sheet music and stuff like that, so I can get my head around as many songs as possible. Like when I entered the worship team, I already had like half of the YouTube from Christian genre in my head because I was listening to so much music and practicing so much at home and practicing so much at church and such. And so work hard, stay humble, and be patient. I guess that's the 3 biggest advice I can give to any new church drummers trying to get out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess they don't let you do too many crazy fills, do they? They want you to just keep it simple most of the
time. Not necessarily. It depends on the songs, but I guess our good scenario is that our sound engineering is also our producer as well, so he knows what he wants to hear or he needs to hear. And sometimes he'll be telling you, try to spice it up a bit here and there, or sometimes he'll tell you, try to keep it simple and basic. So it depends really. Serving the music, it's more than anything. If you have a simple song, keep it simple, serve the audience, serve the music, and then when flashy songs come around, you better know the fills and you better know the stops and you better know everything because you won't get a second chance.
That's for
well,
sure.
You would, but you know what I mean? You don't want to, be complaining, oh, I want to be more fancy. And then when the fancy moment comes, you screw it. Can't blow it up.
It was like, I want to get fancy during the Hallelujah song there. So, but I guess, how many people can you fit in your church?
Our auditorium is, I think, 1,500, something like that.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It's pretty big, yeah. Like, I guess one of the biggest thing in our church, you even from, like, even our youth services, they have like 300 people and such. So most of the people are sort of getting introduced in our worship teams and ministry through like the youth services and Sunday schools and la. But you only sort of get used to the big audience from the beginning. So you better learn how to control your nerves.
Oh, yeah.
Like literally Sunday night service, which is our main service, like we probably packing out 1,200, 1,300 every night. It depends on the night. Sometimes we have 800, sometimes we have 900, but usually it's pre-packed in the place, especially when we have like concerts and events and stuff like that. It tends to be really packed out, so you better not let the nerves get the best of you.
Yeah, that's for sure. I guess it must have been pretty packed during Christmas, I guess. Did you play during Christmas sessions?
Oh, yeah. I played we had the two Christmas concert here. I've actually have three songs that we played in our Christmas concert on my YouTube channel. I got live sets from him. But yeah, no, this was the preparation for it. It was like 3 weeks to a month in advance, and we have some guest singers as well, and uh, pretty hectic. Like we're more in church practicing than actually being at home. Like literally, was just going to work, finish work at 5:30 or whatever, get home, get something to eat, 7 o'clock, band rehearsals, and it took us a bit until we put everything together. But it was a pretty good concert and some complicated and complex songs, but turned out pretty well.
Yeah, I can imagine too. So let's see. Influences, talk about YouTube channel. I guess, is this more of your career right now, or are you still in uni?
No, so I finished uni a couple of years ago. So I am a full-time mechanical and electrical engineer, actually.
Mm.
So that's my day-to-day job. So I'm working for a firm now as a project manager. So that's sort of my 9 to 5, and then music is sort of as a hobby on the side. Now I've always said if I ever get a chance to do music full time, I will drop everything and do it the next day. But that offer hasn't come yet, so I'm still checking my inbox on the daily. Something coming in.
Is it that you have to give up the high-paying job to go into a music career? Because I've seen that's how some musicians do it, but it shows their love for it too. So, I guess, would you do the same thing?
Ooh. Well, at the end of the day, like even music, you won't make as much money in music, but if you have some sort of a decent living and, you don't need to go on holidays 4 times a year, If you can afford one holiday, it's plenty. Also, I'm married, so my wife has a pretty decent career as well. Like she's an interior designer, so we sort of, if I decided to go full on music, it wouldn't be, the toughest, let's say, for our family. But
should be saying,
yeah.
when are you going to get a job again?
Yeah.
Be like, eventually. Be like,
We'll look into it. We'll see what happens.
I'll weigh my options. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Right. But I guess, speaking of which, and this question tends to hit pretty hard depending on like how you've been impacted. But in terms of COVID, I guess, how bad did COVID impact you, your family, and community?
Oh Jesus! It impacted us really, really full on. Really. Sorry. Yeah, being isolated from everybody for a couple of months was pretty hard. Now, actually, in the pandemic, that's when I've met my wife. Funnily enough, so for me, the pandemic actually sort of worked out for the best, in a sense, because that's when I met my wife, and that's how sort of we got to know each other and got married after that. And then career-wise and such was very low, a bit of a tough time, financially and socially more than anything, I guess. I don't know how you guys felt it over in the States, but I think socially was the biggest thing, because you between the four walls, and you couldn't meet anybody and you couldn't go anywhere, and then it was pretty, especially because you wanted to protect your loved ones, your elders and such, so you didn't want to go out and risk it and come back home and to have something and pass it on to them, and having tragic moments in the family. So yeah, it was pretty tough socially. It was pretty tough for us, but thankfully that's all over and we're back to normal life.
I say sort of normal life. I don't know if we're fully back to 100% normal at this point. But states-wise, it would really depend on who you want to talk to, because there'll be people who are totally okay with it. We wear the mask. We got vaccinated. Then you run into those people who don't want to get vaccinated. They think there's some sort of conspiracy behind it. They put little cameras in our bodies, that sort of thing. There actually has been a little... There was one interview I did, which was kind of a little tragic, that did involve one thing with the vaccine, but we'll not go into that too much. But it really got blown out of proportion, to say the least. That's what COVID really did. And I guess I guess Ireland must have lifted their restrictions a little bit sooner, or do they still keep some in place?
No, I think we had like we're the third or the fourth most restricted country in the world. So they closed us up for the longest. Oh, it took us forever until we finally managed to go out, like to a restaurant or even come into church or anything like that. It was really difficult, but thank God it's all over.
I see. It's funny when you mentioned how you met your wife, because that tended to be like one of the blessings that kind of came out of it too, even though.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, the thing is, I don't like normally saying it because you think of how bad it was in general, but you do run into those. So that's the funny thing. It's like there was some blessings as it came out of it too. Because I know you started YouTube a little later, but for me, it allowed me doing this podcast. Actually, allowed me to finally work from home, which I didn't have the privilege of doing before. And you helped you. I guess how did you two meet? Did you have to do it through like a site called Tinder or any sort of dating app?
No. Actually, we had we're actually from, me and my wife. We're from Romania, actually. But we're like I'm here in Dublin for past 10 years now. So in Romania, we had this Christian meme page that had a Facebook group chat, and one of my buddies was in it, and randomly around like 10:30 or something like that in the evening, text me, dude. Like, dude, yeah, what's up? What you want? I was like, oh, this group chat, a lot of young people and this and that, and it's very funny, and come join it. And I said, yeah, whatever, I'll join and see how it is, and then if I don't like it, I'll just mute the group chat and move on. And my wife was part of that group chat, and he was trying to be the love matchmaker. And funny enough, she was trying to, pair me up with somebody else. Didn't work out for her. reached to her behind the scenes. I think I found her on Instagram, and then she used to bake a lot of the time because she was stuck at home. So she started, selling cakes and doing all sort of bakings and stuff. And my favorite dessert is tiramisu. I don't know how you guys call it, but I think that's the pronunciation. Tiramisu, yeah, there you go.
Tiramisu, yeah.
And then I think she did one on the days, and then I reacted to a story, and then sort of start talking, and rest was history. So, but we were talking about it a couple of days ago, and I said if the pandemic wasn't on, and we wouldn't have to stay at home, we probably never had time for group chats and stuff like that, and we would have never met. So yeah, I guess. And also, like, I think COVID at the beginning of it was, sucks because everybody was scary and stuff like that. But then after I got into it and sort of enjoyed the free time and sort of work from home for a little bit, and give me more time to, study music and everything else. So, but yeah, that's how my wife and I met.
I had to say, that's probably the most interesting dating story I probably ever heard in my whole life. It was like she was meant to be, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Hitch before with Will Smith.
Yeah.
It was like she was meant to be Hitch, and then that play didn't really work out. So then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we'll just like her story, at least just to try to do like the short story version of it. But it's like we just liked her story. Then we started chatting, and before you know it,
like we said, a friend, like she was in Romania at the time, and then I think I had to go back home and renew some of the paperwork. And fully enough, she lived in the same area where, like, my mom's and everybody's is from. So we said, I'm going home. I'm coming home today because things started to clear up a bit, and you'll be able to fly from country to country in Europe, at least anyway. And I said, I'm going anyway. Maybe you want to grab a coffee or something like that. I said, yeah. But she said it as a joke, like, yeah, sure, we do it. And then I was like, well, I bought the ticket, so see you in 2 weeks. And then she couldn't say no. So we ended up going out. And then, 3 days later, sealed the deal, and that was that.
Good catch, mate. There you go. I
I
guess.
got lucky. I got lucky. That's all I can say. I got lucky.
I guess was this all at Bucharest in Romania?
No, it was from the south, actually northwest of the country, from Baku,
Hmm.
close to Moldova. That's where all the parts are from. But
I see. And actually I thought your last name was more Greek, if anything. I guess were your parents part
what?
Greek? And,
Yeah. So actually, my dad is from Athens, from Greece, and then my mom is Romanian. So that's how I am
uh,
half Romanian, half Greek, and now Irish citizen as well. So a mixture of everything.
mix it all together and bring all the fighting spirits together too. So
Exactly. All the passion in one bottle.
that too. And I was trying to remember. I can't. We won't get into history because I'm trying to remember Romania, but because I think they were always like occupied by somebody else. It was always different. It was like Ottoman Empire for a little while, and then I think what considered Russia at this time would had parts of Romania or something like that. But let's not get into too much history right there. But regardless, I think we got a chance to go into the fun questions right here. So ready for those ones?
Let's go.
All right. So I guess, do you drink first off? That's probably what I should ask.
No, not at all.
Not a whole lot. Okay, I guess, what's your favorite non-alcoholic drink?
Since I was a skateboarder back in the days, I always a big fan of Gatorade, and it took us forever to have Gatorade in Europe. So the minute Gatorade came in Europe, I started buying it, and then I think even to these days, if I want to, treat myself with a drink, it would be Gatorade always.
I'm guessing you love the fruit punch, or do you don't really care the flavor?
I know I like all sorts of flavor, but maybe the fruit punch would be one of the favorites. Yeah.
I can't get into the yellow one for some reason. I would say the yellow one's not really my favorite.
Yeah, I know it has a bit of a funny taste, all right. Yeah.
I think the reason why it took so long just to get to Europe was because it was always either basketball, NBA, or NFL teams who were always promoting
NFL,
it.
yeah. Always hit it. Like I think mainly NFL, and then skateboarders were starting to get endorsed and sponsored by Gatorade, and they had all these cool stickers and stuff like that. I was like, oh, dude, we want to be like the guys in America. I was like, oh, and then we finally arrived in Europe. I was like, yeah, we're getting it.
Eventually. It's like, no, you'd have to change your football, which is technically American soccer, and then change football into something else, which is what you see they do in London, I think, only a couple of times a year. That's actually when
Yeah.
American football comes to London. That's when they play those games there.
Yeah.
So,
And even in Ireland, they call football Gaelic. That's the Irish sort of, national sport, Gaelic and hurling, and they call it football. And then a lot of the people actually in Ireland call it soccer. Now, there's all the big soccer heads in here. They get frustrated when, the hurling and the GA guys call it football. And we're like, no, football is what we play in Premier League. This is not football. Stop calling it soccer.
I think you want to try to be as different from the UK as possible, who would call it football. So,
Exactly.
No, we don't want to be affiliated with the UK anymore. Call it soccer. So,
Exactly.
let's see. What,
There's still a bit of that going around. You'll be surprised.
I see. All right. So, I don't know how many jump covers you've done recently, but I guess, was there ever a song that was too tough for you to play? And did you either give up or did you come back later to finish it?
There is a song, it's sort of a rock type of Christian rock song, by a band called Not an Idol. When I first heard the song, I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing! So many fills and so many chops, and yeah!" And then I got behind the kit, and my independence and musicality wasn't there yet. So I said, "Oh crap." So now recently, I've actually played it today before I joined the podcast. So I'm looking in, hopefully recording it soon enough. So I just recently came back to the song. Yeah.
I see. Actually, a couple in other interviews I heard was like Rosanna from Toto. I don't know if you ever heard that one.
Yeah.
I gotta listen to it too, but I've always been stuck listening to the more hard rock, classic rocks, metal, and those ones. So I like going fast, but it's also pretty loud too. So
Yeah. I've always found it difficult, because when you listen, I think as a drummer, especially nowadays, when you're trying to do sessions and stuff like that, you're trying to be your vocabulary to be as wide and up as possible. So you listen to all sort of genres of music, and then when I listen to a bit of metals and heavy rock and stuff like that, I was like, geez, I'll never be able to play any of that. Like the whole double bass pedal concept. Although my limbs are split pretty well, keeping the tempo and stuff like that on the hi-hat and play something else on the kick. Turns out well, but then if I, bring a double pedal in, not a chance. It's just not happening. I might be able to get some singles and stuff like that in it, but if I try to, play any, heavy metal stuff and patterns and trees and sevens and stuff, it ain't happening.
yeah, it's a little bit hard too. But I actually got to laugh because it looks like they turned out the light behind you. So it looks like it's closing time. They're going to lock you in the door here pretty soon.
No, not really. Yeah. Just like because I'm in the big auditorium, so they close out the lights because I have the own lights. I have my own lights in here in the drum build, so they're trying to be saving the energy.
I see. We got to save money on our taxes somehow. But all right.
Listen, the bills are going through the roof now.
Are they? Oof. I guess, have you guys been impacted because of the war in Ukraine?
Heavily, yeah. Like prices of living and groceries and gas prices went up and electricity prices went up really high and stuff like that. And we're also trying to get involved as much as possible into help all the refugees from Ukraine and such. So, yeah, Ireland was really heavily impacted by it, and we try to be as helpful as possible to our fellow Ukrainians.
You guys have a program that takes in Ukrainian refugees, and I guess do you put them in? Are they in Dublin, or are they? I guess do they spread them out throughout Ireland?
They're spread out around Ireland, but they're in a lot of them. I think there's few hotels that are turned into refugee centers, and few. I think some private schools that they had, dorms and stuff like that, they turn them into refugee places and so. Yeah, we had to do what we had to do because you never know when you could be the next one. You never know what tomorrow brings.
Absolutely, but very good program. Yeah, thank you so much for doing that too. God bless Ukraine. All right, so
indeed.
Just down to these last two fun questions right here, then we'll jump into the last one. But which drum cover do you love the most that you've done so far?
Ooh. I think it's one of the last ones that I did, because I did it for my college audition, because I wanted to do like 1 year program in drumming at a music college here called BIM, and so I recorded that song. It was actually really fun to play, and it's called, if I can find it, it's called Phenomena by Hillsong Young and Free. Really upbeat, song, and really fun to play, really digging into the hi-hats and few fills and stuff like that. Really, really good. So go check it out on the YouTube channel.
I missed the band name. What'd you say it was?
The band name?
Yeah.
Hillsong Young and Free.
Hillsong Young and Free, okay.
Yeah, back to our boy Brendan Tan.
No, sorry, actually my fire is kicked on there too, so I wonder if it's drowning out a little bit, but it should be okay.
Yeah.
All right, so last one here is, what is currently your favorite song?
It's a song called Take You at Your Word by Cody Kearns and Benjamin Hastinkin. The album just came out recently from Cody, and the drummer in that, David Anderson, I think is his name is. And oh my god, the fills and the grooves and that, like your legs are going insane trying to keep up, and some of the builds that he does are like really, really amazing. Yeah, but that's the song that I'm really sort of digging it at the moment, listening to a lot, and looking to Austin Davis. That's the name of the drummer. So looking into trying to learn the song soon enough, but that's what sort of I'm digging at the moment, trying to listen to it a lot, and it's a pretty good song.
Another good choice. They got to check it out though, because like I said, I've been mostly in the rock, heavy rock, and metal, and that sort of thing too. So I think I gotta eventually draw the line, because I'm just listening to too much these days, and I'm thinking like that's really all I'm listening to. So that's the only drum style I'm going to think about playing. So it's like,
yeah.
But it's like you said, you got to integrate like all the different genres with the jazz, CCM, gospel, and all those ones. I think that's what really distinguishes good drummers. It allows you to be as crazy, I guess, depending on like what sort of genre you're going to get into. But it allows you to incorporate that, all those mixed together. It makes your own nice little play style too.
It is, yeah, and I think being as versatile as possible will sort of help you create your own style and sound as a drummer, because you'll find it sometimes that mixing genres, like even how you tune your kit and your snare and such as that, is you get to create your own sound that's sort of versatile enough to be able to play two genres right after the other, and the kit will still sound amazing, and you still be versatile to do any fills that the song requires, or even try to be groovy or stuff. So yeah, I think that's one of the things that I tried to get myself early doors. I think I was playing for about 2 or 3 years, and I listened to one of the lessons from, I think it was Benny Grab, it might have been, or Chris Coleman, and they were explaining like how you need to be as versatile as possible as a drummer, trying to be as efficient as possible. Because once you improve your vocabulary by playing multiple genres, will form you as a whole drummer, I guess. But nothing wrong with just sticking to one style if that's the only thing you're playing, and that's how you get your gigs and stuff like that. But trying to be as versatile as possible will push your creativity to the max, I guess, from personal experience at least.
Oh, absolutely. And I guess the problem is there's just like so much. It's like metal, for instance. There's like just so much to cover. There's too much even to count. So that's why I kind of stick with it too. And you keep picking up like new ones you hear on the radio too. But I guess some of the advice you just mentioned right here, I guess this is also something you talk about in some of your drum lessons.
Oh yeah, I've always told my students too, because they're like, "Oh, you're such a good drummer. You're such a good drummer. How you get where you are." I said, "Well, simply, I listen to a lot of music. Like my whole playlist on Spotify is just like a big rainbow, from jazz to pop to, Christian rap to everything. Because that's what makes you a good musician, and to be as versatile as possible." So I do tell my students all the time to try to listen to as much musical as possible, because the thing is, when you listen to music all the time, you get used to sort of tapping around and stuff like that, and then before you know it, you sit behind the kit and you end up playing some stuff that you never really practiced, but because you listen to it so much, you're playing it. It's like, oh yeah, it actually feels good. I might need to work on cleaning it up a bit, such, or bring it up to tempo, whatever the case may be. But you end up finding yourself to be creative behind the kit, and you don't know where the ideas came from. And that's where all of these are coming from. For listen to a lot of music and try to be as wide range as possible.
I do have to ask, how tall are you? Because the reason why I wanted to ask, there's usually been a nickname when somebody's named Andrei. They'll usually reference like Andrei the Giant. So,
well, I'm 6 feet, so I'm fairly tall. Not the tallest, but I think 6 feet will hit the sweet spot.
All right, good enough. It'll be good enough.
Yeah. How tall are you?
5'10". So you got me by a couple inches at least. So.
Winning.
Not much. You feel good. You feel good.
Totally.
I feel accomplished right now. So. All right. So I guess, Andrei, did you have any questions for me, or any other words you want to say before we jump to the last question?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for inviting me on the podcast. I was actually talking to my friend saying, dude, I just got this invite. I was like, no way this is happening. So I think this was a really cool experience for me. So thank you for having me on. And yeah, keep doing the podcast and, help us find out about new drummers all the time. Because most of the time, that's how we found about new drummers, either by listening to the songs and seeing somebody on the podcast saying something that will stick with you, and they'll be like, okay, I need to check this guy out. And then, again, coming into widening your range. But yeah, thanks for doing this. And how did you decided to go full on podcast, and how you go about reaching out to people and doing these episodes for our entertainment?
Well, actually, I've always been thinking about podcasting for a while. This was back in 2021, obviously when we're still in full pandemic mode. So
Yeah.
I'd seen about it, and I think I listened to mainly just a couple, not like the whole way through, but at least like parts of it, just to like get an idea. And it just struck me like these people are really just having conversations with obviously these big wigs or big shots, whatever you want to say, because these people are famous or some sort of celebrity, telling some sort of funny story here and there. So I was thinking like I could do that, and eventually, and I probably should have started with probably somebody else because, well, I shouldn't say that, but originally when I first started out, because it was a friend of mine who was really busy at the time because he's a drummer in Nashville, and it took a little while just to get that whole interview up and rolling, but that was my very first one. Then after that, I just figured like I could find some people in the drum community, because it was also like other little talk shows. I wouldn't really say they're like podcasts or stuff like that, but it was more like that. So I drew inspiration from like other drum channels who were doing something similar to this. And I know one actually was a podcast. It was 5 Strokes at 5 from Drumman 190. And Drummerski was doing like a little talk show where he invited. And that one in particular was actually a drummer in our community. It was just one episode, but I've seen he did other episodes similar. Regardless, that's when the light bulb went off my head. I was like, I think I can do this. So let's see how it goes. And
Yeah.
ever since then, just really been rolling with it. And slowly but surely, building a presence on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, that's really, I guess that's why that's what the pandemic sort of bring us, because people were at home anyway, doing nothing. So somebody reached out, oh, I want to do a podcast with you. There's a higher chance that somebody to say yes than when everything was full on go and everybody was touring and gigging and whatever. They say, oh yeah, I'll sit an hour down and have a podcast with you. So, but yeah, no, really good, really great, because as I said, the German community is very open to everybody. I guess that's what I love about our drumming community. No matter where you are in the world, if you find somebody who's a drummer, you find somebody to talk about with them, and yeah, conversations like this, you never know what you can learn from.
I had to laugh with yours because when I originally reached out, they were like, "He just told me more of the details." I was thinking like, I thought I gave enough details, just saying like, "Hey, I'm just inviting these musicians, creators, and other people on." So initially I was worried. I'd be like, I'm hoping I explained this right, because I don't want to actually come off as rude or anything like that. So
yeah, no, because I was shocked. Like, why? Like, how? How is this happening? And then, I checked it out, and then, after I was like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't send that message. I got what he was trying to say. So you explained it very well. It was my fault being tired when I read your message. Blame it on the time zone from America too.
That too.
Europe.
Yeah, that's a 5-hour difference too. So I actually had to make room for this during my lunch break too. So we're almost out of time. So I guess, did you have anything else before we jump into the last one?
No. That's it from me.
All right. So for the final question, this is one I normally like to ask, because I normally like to hear like people's opinions on this. But what sort of message of hope could you give to musicians out there as well as people?
A good hope message up there is trying to discover yourself as much as possible as a person and as a musician, and try to compare yourself with yourself. Stop comparing yourself with others, and just trying to always be better than yourself from yesterday, from a week ago, from a year ago. I guess that's why we all got into this, making drum covers and YouTube and stuff like that, trying to outdo ourselves. So I guess trying to don't compare yourself to others, stick to your own game. Everybody has his own calling from some sort of divinity, whatever everybody believes in. So our Christian guys believe that we all have our calling from God. And, I guess not comparing to others would allow you to get the best version out of yourself. Work hard, don't pity yourself, and nothing is gonna fall from the sky. So try to work as hard as possible to, you know, become the best version of yourself as possible. Stick to the game. You be ambitious. Knock to as many doors as possible until somebody opens and say, "Yeah, I need the drummer for the session," or "I need the drummer for the gig," or "Oh yeah, our drummer got sick and we need somebody for our tour." You never know what life brings. You never know what tomorrow brings. That you can end up going on a tour with an artist, or become a session drummer, or whatever the case may be. So, do your own thing. Stick to hard work. Stick to study, and be as diligent as possible.
Spoken like a true prodigy.
Well,
Right.
let's see what happens.
That was very good. And thank you so much, Andrei. All right. So, Andrei, we reached the end of my podcast right here. Do you have any final words or any shout outs you want to give before we close?
Just a big shout out to you again. Thanks for inviting me over. And, big shout out to our drummers who inspire us. For me, it would be, David, Brendan, and Dan McMurray. But to others, it could be anybody else. So big shout out to our guys who inspire us to be better every day. And shout out to my wife.
We can't forget the wife, that's for sure.
We can never forget the wife.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And apologies before, I did mention that he was in the UK, but actually he's from Dublin, Ireland. And my guest today was Andrei. He's a hell of a good Irishman, as well as an excellent drummer too. So everyone, make sure you go subscribe to his channel. Check out some of his content he does on his social media. Andrei, you stay safe. God bless. Stay tuned, y'all.
God bless and stay tuned. Subscribe to your channel. See you, mate.